What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I am here to do my post-game analysis video for the heartbreaking loss to the Falcons yesterday at Hard Rock Stadium. But real quick before I do, I just want to say this because I know, obviously with the Deshaun Watson stuff and everything going on, there's a lot of talk. There's the debate about whether or not Tua's the guy and stuff keeps going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I actually have decided that I think I'm going to make at some point this week, I'm going to make a video about, I did a state of the Dolphins video recently, and talked the Deshaun Watson stuff recently. But I think I'm going to kind of do it again. Although it's going to be a little bit more of, looking at the full 3 years. I mean, it's like 2.5 years. But since this regime came in, do a real, pretty in-depth look at the things that they've done. But focus it kind of from the perspective of Tua and how they've handled him and, the ways in which... Because there's a debate, people say that, oh, well, they've supported Tua, so much and they've given him everything that he needs to succeed. And just because they throw resources at it and fail miserably does not mean that they fucking gave him everything that they need to succeed. So anyway, I want to talk about that in that video. This video is my post-game analysis video, and I want to keep it strictly to the game, and stay away from the bigger picture for now, because otherwise this video will probably be stupid long and I'm gonna rant a little bit. So that will be another video. I want to keep that separate. Let's just get into this. So yeah, obviously the Dolphins, let's go ahead and pop over here to my little template, my fancy little template. So the Dolphins obviously, dropped to 1-6 on the season. The Falcons moved to 3-3. They get back up to 500. And obviously they've played one less game than us because they came off their bye week. And, obviously just real quick too, injury report wise, the Dolphins had a ton of guys on the injury report. And unfortunately we got a couple injuries in this game. As well to talk about once we get to the end of it, but and the Falcons weren't very beat up, but they're not a very good team either, and obviously we lost to two not good teams the past couple weeks, and that's part of the context and narrative and so on and so forth. So it is what it is. The Dolphins lose 30-28. I had predicted a loss, a 27-20 loss, but it was a bit more competitive than I expected and a little bit higher scoring than I expected. But anyway, let's get into it because there are things that do need to be said. So, and there's good and there's bad. Part of that good is that at the end of the day, it was pretty competitive. It did, it did come down to just a field goal. So that's one of the positives that you can take away from it right off the bat. Obviously, a loss is a loss, and we're 1-6 right now, so that's the negative, way to look at it. But, it is what it is. So let's continue on. We did, for the second straight week, though, we did have over 400 yards. And I do want to say this one thing real quick right now. The offense is unquestionably significantly better with Tua at the helm. It's not even close. He is clearing away the better quarterback, and he does show flashes of elite traits. His accuracy, because we're going to get to that. He was 80%. He was over 70% last week. His accuracy, his release time, super fast release, his ability to manipulate the pocket, right? His ability to make crucial mistakes and then come back and put the team in position to win, even though those were his mistakes, right? So, those things are absolutely clear and cannot be questioned. He is the better quarterback. even though he is still super young, etc. And the offense looks way better with him. And yes, he had two bad, which we'll talk about more in a minute. He had two terrible mistakes, but he bounced back in a significant way and gave this team an opportunity to win. And the defense ended up being the final failure point. The reason why I say final is because, yes, there were a number of things that went wrong in this game. Now, to that point really quick before I get to the rest of these numbers and stuff is that, you know, we did this on Reason's channel yesterday, but we talked about, you know, like what percentage of blame does Tua get? And I think it's actually reasonable to give him 50% of the blame for the loss, because those two interceptions were terrible. They came at terrible, crucial points in the game. You know, they you know, certainly contributed to the loss. They did result in points for the Falcons, etc. So, but at the same time, there was still terrible coaching, terrible play calling, especially on defense, especially at the end of the game, which contributed to it. Injuries contributed to it. Penalties at crucial times in the game contributed to it. So there are bad execution at certain points, bad tackling at certain points, right? So there was a number of things that contributed to it. And so, but in this, now last week, I don't think Tua deserved even 50% of the blame, even with the interception, because it wasn't anywhere near as crucial and it didn't result in points, etc., etc. So the context is different. This week, I think it's absolutely fair to give him half of the blame for the loss. The rest, though, goes on the rest of the stuff that we've been talking about, the bad offensive line, all of that stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to make all that stuff clear, you know, right here and right now. So, but again, for the second straight week, the Dolphins offense actually, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more once we get to the league standings, but we had over 400 total yards. We did let up 397. We had 281 total in the passing game. They had 325. We actually had 132 rushing yards and only let up 72. So in this game, ironically enough, and again, we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the updated league standings, the Dolphins actually commit to the run somewhat in this game, and lo and behold, it, you know, produced and helped to contribute. That was one of the positives that came from this game. They actually commit to it to some degree, and it actually helped them, you know, put themselves in a position to potentially win. And also, the run defense actually kind of showed up a little bit today, too. So those were two, you know, positives that you can take from the performance yesterday. We were 5.9 yards per play. They were 6.3. We did not lose a fumble, but we did get one off of them, the Matt Ryan fumble. Obviously, Tua threw 2 interceptions. Matt Ryan threw an interception. We were 63% on third downs. That's really good. We did let up 46. That's lower than our average, and we are still 31st in the league overall. But it's better than our average, right? And it helps to drop our average, so that's good. You obviously would like it to see it be lower, but it is what it is. And frankly, though, at the same time, though, when you actually watch the game, a lot of the third downs we did give up were, you know, long third downs and stuff like that, and that's just not acceptable. Anyway, we obviously win time of possession battle, 34 minutes, 38 seconds to their 25-22. We lose in the penalty battle because we had 6 to their 3. And again, that's part of the context, and part of what contributed to the loss was crucial penalties at crucial times. So yes, Tua had 2 crucial interceptions at crucial times, but we also had Austin Jackson penalties come up again, and not just him. There was the Isaiah Ford penalty, and there were a couple penalties that came up at crucial times that helped to kill drives and so on and so forth. So anyway, but look at Tua's stat line. Yes, I know a lot of the haters are going to focus on those 2 interceptions, but otherwise he was pretty phenomenal. And again, he bounced back in a huge way and came back to fucking put us in position to win with the 1-point lead, putting it in the hands of a Brian Flores defense that's supposed to be so good. Now, again, to be fair, you know, not to Brian Flores, but to the defense and the players on defenses, they're super banged up. They've got tons of injuries. They, you know, incurred injuries in this game, you know, and, They had to fucking, they've had to be on the field for a crazy amount of time. They've been left out to dry a lot by the offense in the earlier parts of the season, for sure. Not so much the past couple weeks. Not as much the past couple weeks. So a lot of that plays into it. But there was bad play calls and shit too. Playing zone coverages, prevent defenses at times when they shouldn't. Anyway, let's get back to this. Tua was 32 of 40 for 80% completion percentage, 291 yards, 4 touchdowns, the 2 bad interceptions with a 109.5 passer rating. Obviously, he needs to clear out those interceptions. And again, I was the dude last year that made a video. You can go back and look and watch it. And I just made a video. I wasn't bashing on Tua or calling him a bust or anything like that. And when you ask the reason why the interceptions or potential interceptions occurred, a lot of it had to do with the play calling, the bad offensive line, the fact that he was only 60% healthy, etc. That's the reason for it. The reason for the video was just simply to show that in the context with which he operated last season, he did make a bunch of bad decisions and threw a ton of near interceptions. Now, having said that, that is very abnormal for Tua. He actually is known, going back to his college days, for being very good with the football and protecting it. So something has happened. Now, again, some of that has to do with the fact that he wasn't fully healthy. I think that, we've seen a lot of regression on this team. The coaching staff is terrible. We've seen a lot of regression across the board and with other big name and star players and so on and so forth. So that obviously has to do with coaching. But something has changed. And I don't think it's so much Tua as I do those other things. But anyway, I was the dude that pointed that out, though, and showed, there were a ton of bad mistakes and bad decisions last year. These ones, though, are, the first one, look, there is some argument to say that, these were bad decisions, especially the first one, because he definitely could have just, dumped the ball off and still picked up some yards or whatever, instead of trying to force it into Durham Smythe, who didn't, finish running his route and so on and so forth, into like double coverage. But it was also a bad throw. The second one, I think, was more of a bad throw. I'd say the first one was more bad decision. The second one was more just a bad throw / bad decision. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, though, is that yes, he made those bad mistakes, but he also had a really good day outside of that and did show flashes and show some of the elite traits that he does have, and the fighting spirit to come back and fucking put us in a position to win. Anyway, let's continue on. Matt Ryan was 25 of 40, 62.5% completion percentage, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 9.5 passer rating. Myles Gaskin led the way in rushing, 15 rushes, 67 yards, and a 4.5. Tua Tagovailoa, 4 rushes, 29 yards, added in, 4 for 29 himself with a 7.3 average. Salvon Ahmed, and that was, good manipulation of the pocket. By the way, he trucked a fucking safety at one point. He picked up a couple crucial first downs with his legs. He juked Deion Jones out of his fucking socks, right? The dude actually had a pretty great game, other than those 2 crucial and terrible, inexcusable mistakes. And they are. But that's what being unbiased is about. Is acknowledging and recognizing all of it, and not just focusing on one specific aspect of it to fit a certain narrative, right? So anyway, Salvon Ahmed had 7 rushes, 26 yards, and a 3.7. Malcolm Brown, 3 rushes, 10 yards, and a 3.3. Cordero Patterson, 14 rushes for 60 yards, a touchdown, and a 4.3. Mike Davis, 4 rushes, 10 yards, and a 2.5. Receiving, Mike Gesicki led the way, 7 of 8, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Jalen Waddle, 7 of 8, 83 yards. Durham Smythe, 3 of 4, 37. Salvon Ahmed, 2 of 2, 26. Adam Shaheen, 4 of 5, 23. Matt Collins, 2 of 3, 13 yards, and a touchdown. Myles Gaskin 4 10 yards a score, and Isaiah Ford 1 for 10 yards and a touchdown. Kyle Pitts, obviously, we know, had a big day on the Dolphins defense. 7 of 8, 163. Russell Gage was 4 of 6, 67 and a score. Hayden Hurst 3 of 4 for 35. Calvin Ridley 4 of 10 for 26 and a touchdown. Tajay Sharp 2 of 2 for 18. And Olamide Zacchaeus, dude's name that I love to fucking say because it just sounds cool as shit. One reception for 13 yards. Defensively, Eric Rowe led the way for us. 6 solo tackles, 3 assisted with a pass defensed. Landon Robert, 5 solo tackles, 2 assists, 1 tackle for loss. Javon Holland, 5 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a pass defensed. Christian Wilkins, 4 solo tackles, 2 assisted. Andrew Van Ginkel, 3 solo, 2 assisted. Zach Sealer, 3 solo, 1 assisted. Byron Jones, 3 solo, 1 assisted tackle. Xavier Howard, 2 solo, his interception, 3 passes defense. Real quick about that too. I know people want to be like, some people are saying that, oh, he just rolled over the interception, rolled over the ball, and it just so happened to end up in his arms. Yeah, bro, but that still requires a lot of athleticism and concentration to come away with that ball, bro. And that's what makes Xavier Howard special in his ball skills. Like, so, because some people are saying, and look, I get it, Xavier Howard hasn't had the best season. A lot of that has to do with, play calling and the way they used him, going up against fucking, who was it against Tampa Bay that destroyed him? Especially because he's got the groin injury. I mean, that's not what you want to do. Anyway, but some of that is on him too. But it was still a great interception, and especially at that point in the game, Xavier Howard did, his part to help us succeed and help us to get the win. Now, it is true that the very next play, Tua threw I think it was his second interception, so it is what it is. But he also had Howard also had 3 passes defensed, including the interception. But anyway, so let's continue on. Nick Needham, 2 solo tackles and a fumble recovery. Emmanuel Ogbah, 1 solo tackle and a forced fumble with a pass defense. And Jason McCourty added in a pass defense. Deion Jones, the dude that Tua juked out of his fucking socks, had 11 solo tackles, 4 assisted with 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss. Dude was all over the place. Foyesade Olukun, sorry if I fucked that name up, my dude. 8 solo, 5 assisted with one of the interceptions for 56 yards and a pass defense. Eric Harris, 5 solo, 1 assisted. Duron Harmon, 4 solo, 2 assisted. Richie Grant, 4 solo, 1 assisted. Grady Jarrett, 4 solo tackles. Fabian Moreau, 2 solo, 3 assisted with 3 passes defensed. AJ Terrell, 2 solo, 3 assisted, 1 pass defensed. And Jalen Hawkins added in the other interception and a pass defense. In the kicking game, Sanders was 0 for 1 on his field goal. It was obviously blocked. Oh yeah, that's another part of the 50% that's not on Tua. The blocked field goal and the missed points there, right? And then 4 for extra points. Now, that's not on Jason Sanders either, so let's be clear. That was on the fucking line that decided to just do a nosedive and let the fucking defenders go straight through and, get the block. Anyway, he was 4-4 on his extra points. Younghoe Koo, I love that his name, just real quick, it's a side note, I love that his name is spelled Young Ho. I think it's hilarious, but it's obviously pronounced Younghoe, or at least that's what I understand. But I just love that his name is spelled Young Ho. That's the child in me, and so I love it. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, silly jokes. He was, Younghoe Koo was 3 of 3 on his field goals with a long of 36 and 3 of 3 on his extra points. Michael Pilardi had 3 punts, 51.3 average, 1 inside the 20, a long of 58. Dustin Colquitt, 3 punts, a 42 average, 1 inside the 20 and a long of 50. Myles Gaskin, and this actually was really interesting. Myles Gaskin returned kickoffs, 2 kickoff returns with a 14.5 average, a long of 16. Cordarrelle Patterson had 2 returns for a 21.5 average, a long of 24. And then on punt returns, they had Javon Holland doing it with 2 returns at 8 average and long as 16. And then Olamide Zacchaeus had 1 return for 17 yards for them. All right, now let's get to the league standings a little bit. So I want to say before I go through these that the only now obviously the Dolphins are still in the back half of the league in like every single one of these categories, but the only reason why they've improved over the past couple weeks and are actually looking more respectable is because of Tua. 100% because of Tua. Just like last week and a lot this week, the only reason why there were no sacks last week and only 1 sack this week had a lot to do with Tua's ability to manipulate the pocket and, you know, either step up in the pocket or escape, get out of trouble, or, and because of his ability to get the ball out super fast. So, anyway, let's get through this. So, total yards, the Dolphins now have 2,153, which actually moves them up to 23rd in the league. So obviously this is what you do want to see. You do want to see us continue to make improvements. Now, let me just say this. I do think that there is going to be a little bit of a halt to the forward progress because I don't see us... I just don't see us standing really any chance against the Bills on either offense or defense. And I'm not sure the Dolphins are going to be able to put up the kind of numbers, you know, whether it be yards-wise or points-wise that they did in this game against the Bills. They just way outmatch us, and we have to go to Buffalo. Jesus. Anyway, but that's for later in the week. So, yards-wise per game, though, we do go up from 290 to 307.6. So obviously you like to see that progress from 30th up to 28th. Total passing, we now have 1,718, which takes us from 25th to 19th in the league. So, you know, we have one statistic where we're actually starting to get like in the middle of the pack there. I mean, some of these, but like I said, this is all because of the difference that Tua makes. So for those people who want to say he doesn't elevate the team around him, yes, he absolutely does. The problem, which I've been saying to you guys, is that he can't make up for everything, bro. He doesn't fix the injuries, especially to the wide receivers or to, you know, the defense. He doesn't fix the run defense. He doesn't fix the fact that our linebackers are small. He can't fix the fact that the locker room is being lost. Like, he can't fix the shitty offensive line completely. He masks a lot of it, but he absolutely does elevate the team. It's the only reason why the Dolphins offense has actually even looked somewhat respectable the past couple weeks and is getting the improvement in the league standings that they are. It's 100% on him. Anyway, per game though, we went from 237.8 to 245.4, from 27th to 22nd. Total rushing, we have 561, which brings us from 31st to 29th. Now, of course, this also does, you know, keep in mind the fact that there are game discrepancies. Some teams have played 7, some teams have played 6, you know, et cetera, obviously because bye weeks are being factored in. So, you know, things are going to be very fluid in these league standings for the next, you know, several weeks as we get through it. Until after the buys, then things won't change around quite so much. And there won't be as much discrepancy. Anyway, because things will balance back out. 506 to 31st to 29th. We went from 71.5 up to 80.1. So, you know, you'd like it to be over 100. But again, progress. It does only take us from 32nd to 31st, though. So, you know, not really much improvement there. We now have 127 total points, which is 29th in the league, or excuse me, up from 29th to 26th, or 23rd with ties included. And points per game, you still would like to see it fucking up over fucking 20 points, but progress, you know, made again from 16.5 to 18.1. We didn't change in our league standings, though. We remain at 29th in the league, or 26th with ties. Defensively, though, And you actually see this in most categories, or in a few categories. We're taking steps backwards. Now that has to do partly with, the injuries, partly to do with the play calling, partly to do with the fact that they're losing the locker room, etc. But per game, we were giving up 417.8. It actually dipped just a little bit down to 414.9, but unfortunately, that actually drops us in the league standings, though, from 30th to 31st, even though there was a marginal improvement in the actual per game average. Passing yards, we went up, though, 307.5 to 311.6, which has us go down from 30th to 31st in the league. Rushing yards, again, and this was a bright spot. The rushing defense has improved. It's still not phenomenal, still not great or even really good for that matter, but we did drop it from 125.3 to 117.7 from 22nd to 19th. Hopefully the trend continues, and then hopefully we can improve in other areas. I'm just not convinced, especially as the season goes on and the locker room continues to be lost. But anyway, and then this is funny because we went from 29.5 to 29.6 points a game. So obviously there was a 1/10 of an increase, hence the red arrow, the red up arrow, but it's obviously a 1/10 of a point in average, so there really wasn't much of a change. But the problem is that drops us from 29th to 31st or 25th with ties. So unfortunately, takeaways, we did get 2 though in this game, so we go from 7 up to 9 on the season, which takes us from 16th in the league up to 11th. So we are still pretty good in takeaways, but obviously, again, it was impossible to think that we were going to keep getting takeaways at the same rate that we got them last year. It's just ridiculous because it's not sustainable. You had to expect that there was going to be regression. Anyway, and because Xavier Howard, I think, has 3 picks now or something like that on the season. It might be 2 or 3. He's got 2 or 3, but he's not, and he's obviously been dealing with that groin injury, but he's not, he's not going to get 10 interceptions every year no matter what. He still has produced for you. He has 3 takeaways himself. He didn't recover the fumble, but he forced that fumble that got us the win against the Patriots, and then he's had at least 2 interceptions himself. So anyway, we still rank pretty good in takeaways, 11th, 6th with ties. We did get, obviously, the Xavier Howard interception, so we went from 2 up to 3 on the season. Unfortunately, though, in league standings, that drops us from 26th to 27th because we're not getting them at a fast enough clip to, get to the top end of the league. That's 9th with ties. Fumbles, we went from 5 to 6 because we got 1 here. That keeps us at 4th in the league or 3rd with ties. Sacks, we got just 1, so 11 up to 12, but that drops us from 23rd to 24th in the league or 9th with ties. And then passes defensed, we actually moved from 8th in the league up to 2nd because we got 7 passes defensed in this game. 28 up to 35, and then a marginal increase in third down percentage, 52.4 up from 51.6, which is 31st. Real quick though, because I forgot to do it, let me just give you total numbers because we did for defensively. So we had 36 total tackles, 19 assisted. You do want to see those numbers be higher. You would like to see this ideally over 40, and this ideally, 20 or 25. Really, I would say closer to 25. The assisted tackles is more indicative of the team getting, hats to the football. But it wasn't terrible in that perspective. But tackling also has been a bit of an issue recently in particular. We did have the 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, and a fumble recovery with the interception, and 7 passes defensed. And for them, now, as you see, they were better in the tackling category. 46 total tackles, 26 assisted, the 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions for the 56 yards, and 6 passes defense. All right, anyway, back to this. So we're really good at defending passes. Xavier Howard had 3 in this one alone, right? I'm pretty sure he leads the team in interceptions and passes defensed yet again. I wouldn't be surprised anyway. All right, and then let's move on, because I did get a little ranty in this video, so I do want to try and get through the rest of it, because there is still a little bit more. So did we win? Obviously not. Another heartbreaking loss drops us to 1-6. Dolphins did receive the ball to start. We did have again, when it comes to our scripted opening drives, especially with Tua at helm, it looked fucking amazing out the gate. You had some hope, some fucking optimism for the game. We go down 14 plays, score a touchdown, 7-0. Then we force them to go 3 and out. But then on our second drive, we go 3 and out. So you're like, okay, not so good. Falcons then get the ball. They score a field goal after 11 plays, making it 7-3. Then the Dolphins, this is where in the second quarter, the first drive of the second quarter, or the third drive overall, the Dolphins had their blocked field goal. And, momentum started to shift here a bit. Falcons then take 10 plays to go down the field, score a touchdown, making it 7-10 and take the lead. Dolphins then threw their first interception. Tua threw his first interception. This was after 9 plays, after driving down the field. It was the end zone interception. Obviously terrible, bad decision, bad throw, all of that stuff. That's on Tua. Lost drive, lost points because of that. It could have, at a minimum, we could have gotten 3 points. So that's on him, and that's part of the reason why in this game he gets half of the blame for the loss. Because then not only did we lose out on points, at least 3, potentially 7, but then the Falcons get the ball and they go down the field after 6 plays and get a field goal. So they added more points to their total, expanding their lead 7-13. Then the Dolphins ended the half after receiving the kickoff. Time expired as it was, run back. And then we go to halftime. Come back in the third quarter. Falcons receive the ball. They go straight down the field after 3 plays. They just bang, 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 literally right down the field to make it 7-20. And you started to get the feel like the game was going to be, out of reach, or, it was going to start to really, come undone. Right? And then, especially because then the Dolphins, they punted after 5 plays. We did get a 3 and out stop. Then we're like, oh man, look, the Dolphins get a touchdown. Wonderful, right? So after Tua throws his interception, they did have to punt on their next drive after the interception. But then Tua comes out and drives them 9 plays down the field to get a touchdown to start, bringing us back in it, 14-20. We then force a punt after 8 plays, getting the ball back. Unfortunately, we then went 3 and out, so that wasn't very good. But again, and some of these had to do, again, some of these failed drives, though, weren't on Tua. They were on, terrible penalties, right? Drive-killing penalties. So some of that wasn't on Tua. But then we keep going. So we go 3 and out. We get to the fourth quarter. Matt Ryan throws his interception, the Xavier Howard interception after 3 plays. Xavier Howard takes the ball back. It's still 14-20. We get in, have good field position. We're getting ready to fucking hopefully capitalize. And then Tua throws his second horrible interception. And again, inexcusable. And at this point you're like, oh man, that could be the backbreaker. It could be, man. It totally could be. Because then the Falcons, after just 3 plays, get a touchdown, making it 14-27. But Tua's like, you know what? Hell no. Hell no, I'm not letting that be the end of the motherfucking script. Gets the ball back on the very next drive. So not only did he fucking take us on a touchdown drive after his first interception, but then on the very next drive after his second interception, after they take a 27-14 lead, he drives 9 plays for a touchdown, cutting the deficit to 21-27. Then we get a huge fumble on the Falcons' next drive after 7 plays, and then he takes it again, and he's like, fuck this, touchdown after 9 plays, making it 28-27, taking the lead, the 1-point lead, and setting it up for the Dolphins defense to just hold out, to close out the game, and they failed miserably. ultimately resulting in them driving the field after 9 plays to get a field goal and end the game 28-30. So again, Tua gets half the blame for this game because of his costly mistakes, but after each of those mistakes, after the first one, he goes down, gets a touchdown. After the second one, he goes and gets the touchdown. They get a touchdown. He's like, okay, I'm going to go get a touchdown. Takes the lead, set us up to potentially win that game. And, you know, it is what it is. So, anyway, I do want to get into a little bit of injuries. There's actually more than this. I just couldn't remember who else got injured in the game, but I do have updates. So, Jerome Baker did get injured with a knee injury. I don't recall if he returned to the game or not. He might have, although I don't think so, but he might have. Again, I don't think he did, but the update from today is that he's having tests and MRIs done and stuff like that, but it does not appear to be a serious knee injury. Definitely not season ending from what we've heard to this point. So that is good, even though Baker hasn't exactly, you know, he's got a bunch of tackles, but, you know, he's had a bunch of not good plays and stuff as well. So it's not like he's, you know, even performing all that great, but he did get an injury. I think Landon Roberts had got shook up at one point, but he came back. Myles Gaskin got shook up at one point. I'm not sure exactly what the injury was, but he returned. Both of those guys, they're going to likely be on the injury report. I know Landon Roberts already was, but I think those two dudes will probably be fine. Let me go ahead and jump out of this just to wrap this up. But there was also Jason McCourty and Malcolm Brown both suffered injuries in this game, and actually both of those guys got placed on injured reserve today. So, and then also just to give you another quick roster move update. Not only did they put McCourty and Malcolm Brown on injured reserve, but then they actually poached a safety from the Carolina Panthers practice squad, a Sheldrick Redwine. Looks like he's from the University of Miami. And yeah, so they did pick up that safety. Obviously, I'm assuming because, you know, McCourty's going on injured reserve. I just saw an update that the Jets have traded for Joe Flacco. They sent a 6th round pick to the Eagles for Joe Flacco because Zach Wilson is expected to be out of the lineup for like 2 to 4 weeks because he apparently has a PCL injury. It's not going to be a super long-term thing. Anyway, just side note, just because I saw that. But anyway, so those were the injuries. And so, but again, you know, that was one of my big concerns for this season. Again, not just because we sustained a bunch of injuries in preseason and training camp, but again, because that was one of the ways in which we were relatively lucky last year, being relatively healthy at the very least comparative to the rest of the league, you know, throughout the season last year. And that's not something that, just like the turnover rate and third down defense and so on and so forth, those things, red zone defense, those things are not so easy to carry over year in and year out. So anyway, whoo, there was a lot to talk about, a lot to break down, a lot to discuss. That ended up being a pretty long video, about 40 minutes at this point. So, but I am going to wrap up. Real quick before I do my sign off, make sure you do check out Rave On Sports, the fan-driven sports app that is aiming to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-plays and live chats with other fans and content creators like myself. Check out the description box for the links for that. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.